Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. Yeah, it's that one, I'm afraid. The Reds' 26-match unbeaten run comes to an end with a defeat at the Cottage. It was glorious sunshine, but it was horrendous defending, wasn't it? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the statistics around the subs. We'll talk about, is there any positives to come to, and we'll even have a look at the West Ham game coming up. But I am delighted to welcome a man who I could be rivaling because it currently sits, according to my thermometer, at 19 degrees here in Edinburgh, Bart. And I've actually got the blind up and it's still shining through. We're not close though, are we?
No, we're not, mate. But, later, baby.
Yeah. Mauritius and Edinburgh are not really in any comparison, are they? But there we go. And ladies and gents, the format of tonight is a little bit different. He'll be under time pressure, will the Doc? And he's got a few questions that he needs to answer for me, sharp and fast. We'll see how he does because we want to get to the hard and solid facts of the eye test. So, thesis number one, Bart. Can we prove the first half, according to the eye test, was just as big a disaster as it looked? And the second half was a good rally, but there was just too much to do. Your 5 minutes or so begin now.
So, overall stats here, you can see at the top line, are not that dissimilar to a Liverpool game this season. Right? Dominant possession, dominant field tilt. Total shots. It's fairly unusual for us to lose that, but not to only win it by 2 is probably gives you a bit an indication of where things to go. Still have more shots in the penalty box than the opposition. Touches in the penalty box up to about 30, which is better than pre the break, if you get what I mean, where we'd start to have lower amounts. XG, this is where things get a little bit awry because it's only 1 XG for us, but we kept them below a level. So we're still keeping the opposition down, if you know what I mean. Threat to conversion. This is which has been off the boil for us for, I would say, a month. Taking out the international break, we have not been making the right decisions in the final third, particularly in the good areas when we've had threat. We haven't been turning that into XG. Defensively, keeping the upper around 50 is still good, right? That's okay. I was saying to Mr. Lynch when he was asking me earlier today about what does it all mean. And I said, truly elite is to keep an opposition at 30% conversion. To keep it at 50 is good, right? So that's not bad. That's a little shoot, should we say, right? The problem is when you break things down. The first half, we gave them 3 big chances, right? And the bit I haven't got in it because I don't generally put it in because it's bonkers. Is areas leading to a chance or areas leading to a shot. We had 4 of those in the first half, right? Oh, so that's like the first time since I don't even think from the dark Rodgers days did we give up. Did make 4 shot leading errors in 1 half. It's just something we just don't do, and we did it in this game. So we gave up 3 big chances, right? Which meant, we know what big chances generally a half decent side, and Fulham are more than a half decent side. We'll take those big chances. And they did. They scored 3 goals. I mean, Robbo made 2 errors in one goal and another one. So it's kind of, so that first half, I think it's fair to say, was truly awful. In terms of XG, we only created 0.05. Yes, that's 5% people. And we let them create 0.55. Now, that's a ridiculous stat if you think about it. They scored 3 goals for 0.55 XG. That's insane, right? That's just but that gives you the indicator. I've heard the Dark in the group of UP was, this gives you an indicator of how much of an impact errors have on football matches. You can say all of you want, but if you make this type of basic error, which we did 4 of them in the first half, that's what happens. You deserve to get it. Second half, fine. We turned it around. We created 3 big chances. We didn't take 1. out of 3 created. We scored 1 goal, and we created, over 1 XG, and they only let them create 2-1. So it's not that much different from there. So our threat conversion second half went up to 80%, getting near 100, which we want, but we let 60, 70. So it's getting near where we want, and we reduced them to 27%. So yeah, first half, they converted their threats 83%, which is insane, and we only converted 8.2%, which again is it's a season low for a half, right? So yeah, this definitely was a very poor first half, but we did kind of bring it around second half, but not enough. And we'll go on to the value. So it wasn't quite enough. The bit that will annoy people is that the rally actually meant that in normal circumstances we should have won the game. It's just, if you create 3 big chances away from home without man XG, you probably should expect to take one of them. Jota pivotal 50 odd minutes that was probably the key, one of the key moments of the first half. We didn't take it. We therefore didn't score until Diaz came on, which is in the 60th, which later on in that purple patch where Bradley came on at 67. That's when we scored, which is probably a bit too late. We left ourselves too much to do in the latter periods. But yeah, to answer your first question, first half was particularly poor because of the errors we made on the ball. Robbo being particularly poor on that. Van Dijk. Jones, I'm a little bit less harsh on because I think you'd expect your massive centre-half mate to head the ball away and not fall under it.
Yeah.
And then he just hits him on the leg and pops up for a shot. So, but other than that, the way the side didn't adapt, didn't go again, the sort of went shots rather than keep playing, is probably something to think about. But yeah, that's your first question answered. I would suggest the rally was not enough, but it was a good rally.
Tell you what, Bart, I didn't start putting you under more time pressure. That's the best summary I think you've ever given me as well. Well, we'll come to 5-minute thesis number 2, Bart. So this is maybe the big one. This is trying to bring it up a little bit as well, because Connor Bradley's back. Alisson, fingers crossed, should be back at the weekend. Luis Diaz made a real impact. So, in fact, 2 of the subs get a goal and an assist, don't they, combine for the second one. So, the 2 questions for this one. The impact of the subs, is that a positive to take into the weekend, number 1? And number 2, I don't want to be harsh on Kelleher, but you just feel with the quality of the chances, Alisson saves 1. Can we see that in the stats?
So this is before the first subs pass network. You'll see it's a bit congested, should we say, that's one box effectively. You've got 5 players in one box. Robbo playing deep because he's up against pace. We've known that's Robbo's default. If he's playing against pace, he doesn't really do the attacking stuff, which doesn't help us out. And then Curtis playing the right back. He's playing it more conservative, should we say, but he's also playing it narrow because he's been told to come in here and help out midfield a little bit. He also cannot cross the ball. And that's even some of his biggest fans will tell you one of his weaknesses is he can't really cross the ball. So there's no real point in him being out here, apart from the fact he would have taken a player from home. But anyway, bye-bye. Also, what you'll normally see from us is a definite C. You're not seeing that because the connections with Mo and Cody are poor. And I'm not really accepting the fact that I was listening to CBS tell me that Mo was having a poor game. And I'm not saying he was great, but to have a game at all, you actually have to give the guy the ball. And we found it incredibly difficult to give our best player the ball in the first half. So, yeah, I think the better judgment is probably second half. And if we go post-up second half, Mo's a little further in. Yes, he's still not connecting in, so he's not his top level, but we did get the ball more. Connor is taking up a little bit more advanced strategy. This is a bit mixed up because remember this time Kanate comes off and then Grab starts playing the Regesta kind of role. Robbo's still on for large parts, but he's higher. Diaz automatically operating in the left half space. That's kind of where you want. You force Jota to start operating in 14 and you get a bit more depth into the passing network. So there is an impact there in terms of what you would expect. And if we look at what we look to do in the final third, so This is the first substitution, still not a lot of connections. This is the second substitution period. There's a lot more connections happening in the final third than the further up, versus the first half where there's very, very little going on, to be fair. Now, to look at some threat creation, which you could indicate whether or not the players had a good impact or not. So we've got up to first subs here. So again, largely in this centre circle, which was the set of the passing was very condensed, not a lot outside, and not a lot in the half spaces. What happens when we make the changes? You get a lot more out wide. You get 8, 9, 10 in the half spaces in zone 14. So that we start increasing the threat in there. It's still not at the levels we'd expect because we've seen the conversion isn't great. But at least we're actually giving Mo the ball there because he's creating 13% threat as opposed to 5 pre the first subs. So that's a distinct difference in the pattern of what we started to do. If we look at some of the stuff, I ran a special one for you. So this is our progressive long passes and crosses. What do we do over the time periods? Sort of in the first half, we're a bit left side dominant, right? So all going over to the left to try and find Cody. As soon as we clock on after half time, we start finding that right again. And particularly, we've got more progressive, which is at red, in the latter half of the second half, right? So that gives you some indication that the subs were starting to work. If we go back to our classic zone 14 plots, you can see the volume changes in these areas in the second half as opposed to the first. And this period here is where Bradley comes on 67, and then he carries on. This is a particular area of interest because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 progressive passes all in and around zone 14 and the right half space, which is Bradley and Mo. So there is starting to see a bit of signs there. It is always going to be hard to identify the impact of one player when there are 3 other changes at the time, and we have to caveat that. But there is some indication that Bradley did have an impact. In terms of player analysis, because I know we often like to look at what happened. So in his time on the pitch, Bradley we know doesn't actually contribute to that much threat. We know that from previous games, right? Mm. So 4.8% in half an hour. Okay, that's not nothing to really write home about.
Yeah.
Curtis Jones 6.7 in 100 minutes gives you a little bit of an indication that maybe that's not too bad in the context of the game. All right.
True.
What did Bradley do off the ball? We're not really that interested, but he did win 100% of his duels, and he did spend most of his time in the middle third. So some pluses for him. Diaz particularly spent 65% of his time in the attacking third, and in terms of touches, Luis Diaz had 4 penalty box touches, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the same. Where's Mo Salah gone? It's more than Mo Salah did for the whole game.
Wow.
So gives you 2 sides there. A, the thing I had, we didn't give Mo enough the ball in the right areas. True. Yeah. But equally, when Diaz came on, he got it and he got in the box, which is what we needed. So there you go. And to answer your final question, should Kelleher have saved it? Now, I'm not really one for bagging on Platt. You know that. I'm trying to find a positive. But remember the ratio between XG and post shot, right? Yeah. If the post shot increases by about 30%, then it says the player added something to the shot and made it harder to save than the initial chance, right?
True.
So bear that in mind. So the first one is 31 minutes. Am I right with that? A minute 22. 30 on. It's a 0.4 chance, but he adds on 40%.
Right.
So he makes that chance very difficult for Kelleher to save, right? Okay, or more difficult, should we say. So you can kind of say, maybe not. Iwobi's, he only adds on, 11%. So that one, I would suggest, and that was the up high, wasn't it? That was
deflected off
a bit more essential, deflected.
Yeah.
So that one is one of the ones I would maybe suggest could have done better, and he might have saved. And he might have also saved the setting up because of the positioning he would have been in. But I'm just telling you, in terms of what the player did to it, he added substantially more quality to that shot than the Iwobi. Now, the Nunes one, which I thought was the game killer one, to be fair, because if you go 3-1 down, 2-1, you kind of, we've seen it do it before, but to go 3-1 down, I thought that was a bit of a killer. It was only 11% chance, and he only nudged it up 8%. So again, that's another one. And the angle, this is really not a good angle to be considered from. It's very square. You got nothing. We could say it's a good finish. We could be positive like that. But would we expect Alisson to save that? And I think there's a fair chance that Ali would have saved one of these two chances. Either the Nunes one, is it Moons one, or the Iwobi one. I think there's a fair chance that Ali would have saved that, because generally speaking, he outperforms his post shot. He's outperforming by about 10%, if not more. So those are in his range. The setting on the opener, maybe not. But yeah, so that's probably my analysis on whether I think Kev could have done better. I think Kev is a good Premier League keeper.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to win the league, I think you need a nudge above Kev to win you the league. And people might say that's really harsh because he did well in certain seasons. And he did. And you've got to remember when last time we won the title, we had Adrian playing with us for 8 games or something. Yeah. Forget that. He was largely a disaster after that period, but for that actual period of time, he was pretty good. So, I think this is something. I don't think Kev has been in good form in this period that he's coming for. I think he was poor in the League Cup final against Everton. He didn't really have a lot to do. And what he did do, there was a few little moments on crossing. Some of that stuff, the handling wasn't great. And this game, I think some of his passing wasn't up to his usual level. I could suggest that 2 of the chances Ali might have saved.
Which, if you think back to the eye test, people, it is that Mooney's chance, isn't it, for 3-1? It seems an acute angle. And for want of a better phrase, it just seems to go through him a little bit. And if you don't believe us, look at the stats. And like I say, he didn't add that much on. I think it's fair to say you would expect Alisson to save that. If not possibly the Iwobi one. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, we'd agree. But Alisson back at the weekend could be absolutely